What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome to Monday's Lucha Libre news/rant show. That's right. So get the popcorn popping, get the sodas pouring, get the coffees poured. Hurry up and make love to your wife, and get right back to this because it's your favorite show of all time. That's right, the Lucha Libre news/rant show. Alright, got a quick show for you today. Not a whole lot going on in the news world. Mostly talking about a IWRG event that was just held during this past week. I believe November 15th it was held. So let's just dive right in to things. So the IWRG held an event this past week, and like most IWRG events, it was actually really good. First matchup seen Trauma and Trauma Jr. versus Blue Panther and Blue Panther Jr. Now this matchup started off with a bang, and it was actually really good from the very start. It really had the potential to become an instant classic, as do really most Blue Panther matchups. They're usually always instant classics. Like you think of Blue Panther and you think of great, CMLL classics and stuff like that. But so it definitely had the potential to become an instant classic, and I think it was for sure. It was definitely hardcore and very much lucha libre. Blue Panther and Blue Panther Jr. ended up beating down the Traumas, and the Traumas ended up beating down the Panthers. This matchup was definitely very good in the back and forth department. It ended up seeing, of course, Blue Panther and Blue Panther Jr. pull out the wins via pinfall. I think actually it was Blue Panther Senior that ended up pinning both Trauma and Trauma Jr. But needless to say, it was a really great matchup. Not the matchup of the night, though, however. But the next matchup, we seen Jack Evans versus Ricky Marvin. Now, originally, I was definitely not excited for this matchup at all. I was actually figuring that this matchup was going to be a snooze fest, and I wasn't really into this matchup when I first seen that these two guys were facing each other. Just basically because I'm not a fan of Jack Evans or Ricky or anything like that. But this matchup ended up blowing me away big time, and definitely this matchup was really very fast paced, like really fast matchup. It had amazing back and forth and was extremely technical. This matchup left me on the edge of my seat for the entire matchup, and eventually seeing Jack Evans win via pinfall. Now, I would have liked to have seen Ricky win the matchup, but definitely nonetheless, this matchup ended up stealing the show and became the matchup of the night. It was just so extremely technical between the two. A little bit of high flying, not as much of high flying actions as I would expect to see, especially from a Jack Evans matchup. This guy is definitely one of the greatest high flyers I've ever seen. Even though I'm not really a fan of the guy. I don't really like the guy, but whatever. Anyway, another great matchup involved in the IWRG event was Mr. Electro, son of la.park, Ramses, and Lismark Jr., who took on Cybo, Puerto Rico, Rockstar, and the Chris. This matchup was definitely very chaotic, and definitely way crazier than it really needed to be. It was definitely almost too much at one point. It would have definitely been a lot better if they actually stuck to it being just a regular tag team matchup. There was definitely a lot of wasted time in this matchup for sure, and eventually I just found myself getting really bored during the watching of it. Eventually turned into a regular tag team matchup, but by that point I had definitely lost all my interest in the matchup, and I definitely just wanted to go to sleep at this point. Cyber, Rockstar, Rico, and the Chris ended up winning via pinfall. Like I said, I mean, compared even like the names on this list, I mean, you have champions, you have legends, but it was just a snooze fest, and just, it was a waste of time having this matchup. I think it's definitely one of the worst matchups of the night for sure. But then, of course, things came back in the main event. Now, the main event of the night was definitely a mega triple threat matchup as la.park took on Rush as well as Penta. So it was Rush versus la.park versus Penta in a triple threat cage matchup. Now, the stars of this matchup. Now, at the start of this matchup, we seen Rush and la.park team up with each other to beat down Penta. of course, before they turned on each other and so started really beating the hell out of each other. This matchup was definitely really very epic, to say the least. It was hardcore, hard-hitting, and non-stop action from the very start all the way up to the very finish. Now, Rush ended up winning this matchup by escaping the cage, which is a win that I definitely agree with. Usually, I would have probably said, well, maybe la.park should have won, or whatever. I actually agree with Rush winning this matchup. Because, this matchup was really, really great, but how he won it and the way he won it, I thought was really, really good. I definitely, all in all, these weren't all the matchups for that night, but however, these were the only matchups that I thought were really worth mentioning. There was a couple other ones that were just kind of meh, not really worth mentioning, stuff like that. Probably like 3 more matchups that I never talked about, but all in all, if you want, you could probably head out to YouTube somewhere and find this event. Like I said, I think it took place on November 15th, but it was a really, really great IWRG event. Now, of course, in our last thing is, unfortunately, it's been 13 years since the death of one of the world's greatest luchadors of all time. That is, of course, Eddie Guerrero. It was announced, of course, way back in November 20-something of 2005 that the legend had passed due to heart failure. Eddie Guerrero will be always remembered as one of the true greatest luchadors of all time. He was involved in really the best Mexican matches of all time. It is really hard to name a great match without naming Eddie Guerrero. Without involving his name, it's hard to think of a great match, and he definitely cemented his legacy, and he will always be missed by, of course, us here at Peter Buddy, and definitely hats go off to one of the greatest, and yeah, he'll definitely always be missed for sure. But anyway, guys, that's the show for today. I know it wasn't super long, but next week's show won't be on Monday. We won't be posting a video next Monday. The next Lucha Libre News/Rant show is going to be held on Sunday, and then after that, it's going to be held, of course, during its regular slot every Monday. But anyway, that's the show for you guys today. Hope you like, comment, subscribe, you know, love very much, and I will check you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.